Hello everyone, my name is Miss Sohini Datta.
And I'm Roudrajjal.
Both of us will present on class, sexual agency and non-binary capitalism in Indian beer and cigarette cinema, a feminist critic from Marx to Foucault and beyond. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for giving us this wonderful opportunity to present in front of all the delegates. Coming to our content page, so I will start with the introduction, theoretical foundation. Roudrajjal will discuss on the evolution of beer and cigarette cinema, and then we will analyze the beer and cigarette cinema with some theoretical foundations, and the paper will end with conclusion and bibliography. Giving a background to this topic, in the dim light rooms of the lower income groups neighbor, where the scent of the street food fills the air and the bustle of daily life never ceases to end. A different kind of cinema thrives in this part of India. This is the world of beer and cigarette cinema. These films largely dismissed as cheap entertainment, yet they serve as a cinema of rebellion. A rebellion against economic suppression, cultural elitism, and sexual conservatism. By situating these films within a feminist Marxist framework that incorporates Foucauldian notion along with Bourdieu's insight into cultural reproduction, the study aims to find out how capitalist production shaped representation of gender and sexual agency. Now Roudrajjal will talk about the evolution of beer and cigarette cinema in India.
Thank you, Shobhini. The journey of beer and cigarette movies or the industry started from the mid-1980s, because at that time, the mainstream Indian cinema or the commercial movie, the so-called A-grade industry, failed to cater their audiences or consumers with satisfied content. The beer and cigarette makers, they targeted the middle class masses or the lower middle class masses as well to cater with low budget, by making low budget movies, by blending erotica, sexuality into different genres like horror, thriller, action, and so on. At that time, the common masses of our country, were not much more, got introduced into sexuality or nudity in that sense, because that era was, just a few years back, when India's westernization, liberalization, or economic policy started. So during that contemporary mid-80s, the so-called middle class or the lower middle class, they were totally deprived from all the sexual agencies, fantasies, states, and everything. So the makers of the BNC industry, they aim to mint money at the box office by making this, target audiences or consumers with such kind of content with full of erotica, eroticism, sexuality, nudity, and everything. The makers of beer and cigarette industries, they mainly targeted the B and C tier cinemas and in the cities and the cinema halls, mostly the single screen cinema halls, by offering ticket prices at a very low rate. The golden run of the B and cigarette industry or the movies continued till the mid 2000s. During the mid 2000s, with the emergence of the multiplexes, with the shutting down of the single screens, with the staunch rule of the censor board, the B and cigarette movies industries suffered a huge economic setback, and the industry, for a temporary time, it got collapsed. During the second decade of the 21st century, with the emergence of the OTTs, with the advancement of the digital media, social media, the B and cigarette movies or content or the industry in that sense totally got shifted into the OTT version. And if you see that during the 80s and during the mid 80s, with the emergence of the B and cigarette industries, the movies were made keeping in mind the binary audiences or the so-called heteronormative audiences. The gays were mainly from the male point of view. The male gays were there. But at the contemporary time or at the present time, with content on the OTT platforms, the so-called B and cigarette industrial movies, they try to cater not only the binary audience but the non-binary audience at the same time. People, irrespective of their gender, irrespective of their sexual orientation, sexual dynamism, they can access, they can consume several kind of content, several kind of categories through these OTT platforms, through these channels, or the current industry. They are kind of catering, keeping in mind the gender fluid audience, and obviously they try to keep the female gaze as well. Now again, I would would hand over to Sohini to continue further.
Thank you. So I will start with the analysis, starting with Marxist analysis of commodity fetishism. It is evident in the way that these films use sexuality, particularly female sexuality, as a marketable product. The lower income groups, especially in rural areas, find resonance with the actors of these films. According to India's Economic Survey 2023, 75% of India's population is part of the working class demography, many of whom identify more with the characters of B and C grade films rather than with the idealized portrayals of wealth and glamour in A grade films. Marxist theory suggests that the identification process is influenced by the commodification of actors, as they provide symbolic capital to audience who consumes these films as a form of escape from the rigidity of their own socioeconomic remedies. Coming to our second analysis, that is Foucauldian power and sexuality. Foucault argued that power is not just repressive but also productive, shaping desires, behaviors, and identities. In these films, sexuality is both a form of resistance and subjugation. The sexualized narrative in B and C grade cinema, often featuring women as the central character, illustrate the tension between empowerment and exploitation. Women in B and C grade cinema asserts their sexual agency in a way that challenges the traditional norms and societal expectations. However, the sexual autonomy is framed within a larger capitalist and patriarchal system that commodifies their body for profit and subjected to male gaze, hereby reinforcing the very structure of gendered power that they seek to resist. The third and the last analysis is Bourdieu's theory of habitus, which is useful for understanding the cultural consumption patterns of different social classes in India, particularly in relation to B and C grade cinema. According to him, taste is not a personal or individual preference, but it is shaped by one's position in the social hierarchy. An individual moves through different social economic classes. Their taste in films and entertainment also evolves. Lower income group, often excluded from the glory walls of A grade cinema, developed a taste of B and C grade films which reflect their social and economic aspiration. So, concluding the presentation, I would like to quote Smita Patil. I was often asked to perform in ways that were shocking, scandalous, but my job was to embody those characters. These films were a reflection of certain reality that mainstream cinema would not or could not show. There are some other statements which are very relevant in relation to B and C grade cinema. So here we end with the bibliography. Thank you everyone. Thank you Roudrajjal.
Thank you everyone. Thank you Sohini.